today is, what date is it today?
April the 20.
Oh, look.
29.
Oh,
It's
April the
29th.
29th.
April 29th.
And,
Already?
in 1 month,
2018.
we will be married 63
So you
years.
could say that in a month from now.
Okay.
Okay, zip it.
Okay.
Alright, Bobby, if I go like this, catch Terry.
All right, here we go.
Is it rolling?
It's been rolling for a while. I gotta catch
Oh,
up. You guys start when you're ready.
okay.
29th.
Today is
Today is Sunday, April 29th. We're about to interview my lovely grandparents who will be married for 63 years in a month from today. So let's go ahead and get started. Are you guys excited for this?
oh, we're very excited.
Me too.
Great. So
Okay, we're gonna roll the camera now.
Yeah, we'll start with an easy one. What is your full name?
Okay. My full name is Martin Austin Green. You got that, Austin? That's
Austin.
class.
And my full name is Muriel Isabella Delucia Harry Van Pap Green.
Now, if you could explain that one a little bit, we need some clarification with that middle name.
Well, my mother always said that I needed to take the names of my sponsors, so that was it. But on my birth certificate, it just says Muriel Pap. Now I'm Muriel Green.
Okay. Where and when were both of you born?
I was born in Malta Bend, Missouri, down close to the Missouri River. Marshall, Missouri was the only town of any size close by. Malta Bend had 2 or 3 houses and that was it.
And I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it was a big city for that time, and it was not a very good home life.
Can you tell us what your parents' names were and what they were like?
My parents, my father was Orda Lee.
Clifton, Order Clifton.
Orda Clifton. My mother was Ruth May. And they lived in the area of Malta Bend also. Until I was like school age, and then we moved away from Malta Bend.
What was your mom's maiden name?
Galden, Ruth May Galden.
My father's name was Harold Pap, and my mother's name was Gladys Geisinger. They're both German names. My dad's father took the name of Von off of Pap because he thought it sounded too much German. It was originally Harold Van Pap, but they took the Van off of it. And that's that.
That's all you got to say about that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. What was your childhood like, and what was it like on the home front?
Go ahead, Dan, if you want to. About your childhood.
Oh, I went to school in Oklahoma City until while I was going to school in Oklahoma City, I was in Irving School, and it was a rough little school. So they wanted to start Kiwanis Junior Police in the school. So they elected me as captain of the Kiwanis Junior Police. And the only reason I can figure it out was if some kid was going to get beat up, it was going to be me. But that didn't happen, and I got a lot of recognition from the state of Oklahoma. In fact, I think some of the grandkids have seen some of the citations I got. But Oklahoma City was had a lot of memories for me, because that was like the first six weeks or 6 months of school. But we lived on a busy street, and the streetcars went rumbling by, and people would ride the streetcars. So I got the bright idea of making a shoe shine box, which I did. I made a shoe shine box, and I'd set out close to the street and shine people's shoes, which turned out to be pretty profitable for me. There was a lot of little things like that. One thing I remember most was we was in an apartment building, and there was a couple that lived right beside us in this apartment place. He did leather crafting work, and he made me a pair of holsters to hold a toy gun. And I was so proud of those holsters, and I still got one of them, but one of them got lost some way. So that was very, very nice for this gentleman to make me a pair of holsters.
When you left Oklahoma,
I was in the 6th grade, and Mrs. Edith Vos was she was my teacher in the 6th grade. I had started school on the 1st grade with this class, and then I went to Oklahoma. So I knew most of the kids when I went back to school in Missouri. Everybody's speechless.
Well,
I knew I would throw a powerful spell on everybody.
I didn't have a very good childhood. My mother and father were divorced at I guess I was probably in the 1st grade, and it was just a real hard childhood until my mother remarried, and then we moved to Kirksville from Milwaukee. I was in the 2nd grade, and we lived in Kirksville for a while, and then my stepfather had a piece of ground in a little town called Sublette, So he built a house, and he had a filling station where he worked on cars, and we, my older sister Carol and I would walk to school about a mile and a half. And back in those days, you hitchhiked even at a young age. You just walk along the highway and somebody'd stop and give you a ride. And it's just so different now. But we went to a little school where the teacher taught all 8 grades, and it was a happy school. But when it was snowing and bad, I didn't much like to go to school, so I'd have a headache. And my older sister would she was always the smart one, and when it was snowing real bad, she would just have me put a bandana over my face, so I'd just hold her hand and she'd walk with me to school. And when I was, after I graduated from the 8th grade, in order to go to high school, I went to live with a couple I had never seen before in California. Her mother and dad lived in Kirksville, and a friend of ours thought it'd be a good idea for them to take me in. So I rode out to California with this lady and her friend I'd never seen before. And when we got to California, they had a nice home, but my bedroom was kind of like their studio. I had to pull out a couch every night to make my bed, and they were good to me, but it was kind of difficult to be in California, not knowing anybody. I never saw a kid my age until I started my freshman year of high school. But when I went to high school, it was a brand new high school, and the kids were all pretty welcoming. And I lived there for a year, and then the people I was living with, Irene and Gunther, her dad got real sick and she was going back to Kirksville. So I had to hurry up and finish my freshman year of high school by taking extra classes, so I wouldn't have to take the freshman class over again, and I made all A's in everything. And when I moved back to Kirksville, I went to live with a couple named Irene and Tessie. And they had a photo shop and a beauty shop. And my older sister and I shared a bedroom, and we would get up and have to do a lot of housework before we could go to school. And we were tardy so many days that we couldn't just say we had to work. We were embarrassed to say that. We'd always say we overslept, and because we had to walk quite a ways to high school, and there was a lot of tardiness on my part. I never really excelled in anything. I just kind of went around with the group. And I did go into a sorority in my sophomore year, and that was real fun to be with a group of girls and get together for overnights and everything. And so I would say that Pauline and Tess, even though we had to work pretty hard, we even went out on carnivals. They had a photo shop and a penny pitch stand, and we would go out to different carnivals, and work, and it was kind of fun to do all that stuff, but yet it was pretty hard work. So that was, I guess, in my senior year is when I met Marty. You want me to go on with that?
Well, first let's talk about your siblings. How many siblings did you guys have, and what were they like?
I'd have to think about that a while. There's
Orderly.
Orly,
Isla Francis.
well, you go ahead and name them all. You're going back a lot of years now.
Well, Orderly was just lived one day, and then they had another boy, and he was named Orda Clifton, and he lived to be 27 years old. He had convulsions, and he hit his head at the pool hall and died. And then you had Isla Francis, and she was 3 years old when she got diphtheria and passed away in Oklahoma City. And then you had Robert Clinton Green, who our son Bobby was named for. And then there was William Bryan Green, your brother, and you. Those were your siblings.
Do you have any special memories with your siblings, Grandpa?
Oh yeah, a lot of. I was born way late in the family. all the kids were born before the 40s, and I wasn't born until 1933. Well, is when I was born, and we had all these kids running around ready to spank their butts, but the grandma would get upset, so I couldn't spank them. That's about it.
Okay, Grandma, what about you?
Well, I had my older sister, Carol Clara, was her and I were the only ones that were true sisters. I have a half brother, Johnny Calvin Carlisle, and a half sister who's my best friend, Orpha Faith Carlisle. And I was actually almost ready to leave when they were born. In fact, my baby sister, we call her Cookie, was just 1 year old when I when I had to go to California, and I missed her so much because she was kind of like my baby doll. So when I got back from California, I couldn't wait to hold her and hug her. And my brother Johnny, he was kind of a mischief little guy. He's the one that nicknamed my little sister Cookie. He would call her his little Cookie. And that name stuck to this day. She is still Cookie. My older sister and I were very close. We had to lean on each other all through life because we had a great mother, but she wasn't able to really give us the love and support we needed. we just really had a struggle in our life until I met my man.
So how did the two of you meet?
My older sister and I went to a dance every Saturday night when we'd get off work. We would hurry up and get down to the armory. It was a square dance and a round dance, and we'd go every Saturday night. And this Saturday night in particular, there stood Marty Green and his cousin Bill Green. And my sister and I kind of flirted with them, and we started dancing, and that's how we met. And then back in those days, why, you just kind of, if they asked to take us home from the dance, and we were together, so we went with them, and we made a date for the next day, and they were just home on leave. They're both in the Air Force. And so we started out when he was on leave for just a weekend, and you didn't have telephones back then, so you would write letters. And that's kind of how we communicated, with letters, until we could see each other again when he'd come home on leave.
All right, Grandpa, when you realized you wanted to stay with Grandma forever, how did you propose to her?
We had a big lake. We had a big lake, and it was a beautiful setting. So I just drove out to this lake, and it was really kind of a sparking spot for kids to park with their girlfriends, and we might have even smooched around a little bit. But we had a big moon, and I had it wrapped up, and I had given it to her to open, and boy, she got so excited that I thought she was going to wet her pants. But
That's not true.
but that was a famous spot for everybody to go. So that was just the only time I think that we went there, because we was always home just for a weekend or something. And she was happy. I was happy. So we did good. But then I came back, I think, for a longer stay. And then I had to go overseas. And we was going to be gone we wasn't sure how long we was going to be gone. So Muriel was going to stay in Kirksville until I got back. And now we were at the can't think. We stayed at Mother and Dad's place when I was home, and then I went overseas, and then came back. And as soon as I got back, she was excited that I was going to be at home for a while. And then I had to go back someplace else. Oh, I had to go to Arizona. And she couldn't go with me there. And then I had to go to Campbell, Kentucky. And she couldn't go there. So she was about to give up on the married life. But she did great, accepting all that and trying to keep up with the letter writing. There was a lot of that.
What was it about Grandma that made you realize she was the one?
I guess her ability to meet people and discuss anything they wanted to discuss. She could be right in there talking to them. Plus, she was a good cook. She could cook tomato soup and dumplings like you wouldn't believe.
That's what did it for you, huh?
Yeah, after we ate them for about a year, then she did good with her cooking.
Grandma, what did you find charming about Grandpa?
I just thought he was handsome, tall. I was always looking for somebody tall because I was very tall for girls my age. And I liked the way we danced together and the way he was so loving and caring. And he was just really the only man I ever really loved, and we've had a great life. But he was kind of getting ahead of himself. When you gave me the ring, it was 5 months after that before we got married, because you were in the service. We got married over Memorial Day. And we had to borrow he didn't have a car and I didn't either. I didn't even know how to drive. We borrowed his brother's car and we went to the Lake of the Ozarks for a couple days. That was our honeymoon. And then we went back and stayed at his mom and dad's for about a week, and then he had to go back to Barksdale Air Force Base. That's where he was stationed. So he was going to get sent over to England, and his mom and dad thought I ought to be able to go see him before he left. So they drove me to Louisiana to see Marty before he shipped out. And Marty was telling us about this guy that was at the Louisiana hayride that everybody really liked. Did we want to go? He'd get us tickets. So that was a big deal to buy 4 tickets to go to the Louisiana hayride, and it was Elvis Presley. And his mom and I just had such a good time listening to Elvis Presley. We'd never heard of him before, but his father turned his head and would not look at him because he didn't like his Jardin moves that they used to call him, and he thought he was terrible. And after we were at Barksdale there, we stayed in a motel for a couple days. Then we had to go back home, and I lived in Kirksville and his folks lived in La Plata. And Marty was sent over to England, and I didn't know how to drive. We didn't have a car. So on my own, I I had Pauline and Tessie, the people we lived with, their son was a car dealer, and he brought me a little red and black Plymouth, and he was going to give me a good deal buying it, but I didn't know how to drive it. So his dad took it home, and on weekends he would bring it to Kirksville, and he taught me how to drive. And when Marty got the letter that I had bought a car without his approval, I don't think he was very happy about it. But he was in England, and then, like he said, he had to go to Arizona. And then he got home at Christmas time, and that was when I was able to go back with him. And we put everything we owned in that little red and black Plymouth and headed for Shreveport, Louisiana, to find an apartment we could afford, because neither one of us had any money, a little dab to put down. And we got a 3-room apartment up over, what'd you call it?
Vulcanizing. Tire vulcanizing. If you've ever been around vulcanizing, it really stinks.
And we didn't have much of anything. The girls that I worked with gave me a towel shower, and I made curtains for the windows with towels so that nobody could see in the windows. And back then you got orange crates. Those were our end tables. And we didn't have much of anything, but we were happy we were finally together.
Do you guys have any advice about marriage for couples this day and age? What does it take to make a marriage survive?
I wouldn't know about this day and age because everything is so different. But back then, you were just true to one another, and you didn't even think about leaving because there was no place for me to go. I mean, you just worked out your differences, and you just tried real hard to be accommodating to each other. And when he talked about my tomato soup and dumplings, that's what I lived on for a long time. I made those, and he'd say, "Is that all we're having for supper?" We just didn't have much. I went to, whenever I got my allotment, we'd go to the commissary and buy groceries that would try to last us for the whole month, because we didn't have any place really to go to get food.
Grandpa, what's your advice about marriage for this day and age? Any pointers you can give us?
Talk to your spouse, and I'm not doing very good.
Yeah, you are dead.
But I think talking, you can solve a lot of problems just by talking and respecting each other. And like Grandma said, there's today is not good. The way people live today, the newlyweds. But who's to say that? If you want to keep going and hit 60 or 70 years of married life, that's great. But I think the main thing is talking to each other and letting each other know what you're thinking. That'll do it.
Alrighty. Cut.
Do you remember when we were at the Capitol and Clarence Cannon ordered you a hamburger? You don't remember that?
Clarence Cannon was the state senator for Missouri.
He
He
was from
Ellsbury.
Ellsbury.
He was from our hometown.
Ellsbury.
Do you remember that hamburger?
Oh, it's, yeah. I got pictures of it.
Yes, like so we don't usually get
Here, Uncle Bob, you
requests
can
for hamburgers.
roll back a little bit so
Yeah,
you're not
so
so
you're
locked.
No, yeah.
What I really want to hear is what you did to get grounded and what was the worst punishment you ever received. I'm just.
Whatever you
I never
want.
got in trouble.
I was gonna say, it wasn't him that got in trouble, it was probably the other one.
Oh,
Yeah, I need to move.
No,
No.
No,
no.
he wants you all.
Do you need to take a break at all?
Lay that in the dining room. Honey.
Well, you haven't got
You
to talk
haven't
about
got
it
to talk
yet.
about it yet, Papa.
Well, I really don't know.
Should
What do you
maybe
think of
should maybe Mom start out like
Be like, this is my firstborn.
born,
Okay,
he was
all right,
born
all right.
in Shreveport?
I'm the Sarge. Are we rolling yet? Oh, we are? Oh. Okay. I didn't know much about marriage or raising kids, but this little guy come along a year and a few months after we were married. My birthday's on October the 7th, and his is on October the 13th. 20 years difference in our age. I can always remember how old he was. And he was a very good little baby. And his grandma and grandpa Green were so proud of him. They bought him a high chair for our first Christmas. And he was always pretty good. When he was 4 years old, he had to have his tonsils taken out. And we found out then he was allergic to penicillin because he had a bad reaction. So he had to come home from the hospital, and I had to feed him liver ground up like hamburger to get his blood to where he can have his tonsils taken out.
We
But-
still have the high chair.
Yeah, we do still have his
I
high
use it.
chair. And he's 61 years old now, so that high chair is 61 years. So Bobby played baseball. He ran around with all the kids in the neighborhood. And Bobby, what are some of your favorite memories of your childhood?
Oh, it's just a great time. You all do. Things would be a little tight, but if there was something we really wanted to do, you'd make it happen. You know, we always took family vacations. Mom would keep us rolling hard to see a lot of things. We've been to, over the years, a lot of different states. I don't know how Dad kept up with it a lot of times. He'd be on 2-week vacation, get home off the vacation usually on a Sunday afternoon or evening, and he'd have to be back at work Monday morning. No time to rest or anything, but he always hung right in there and had a good time with it also. I remember one time I was buying Judy, my wife now, an engagement ring, and I didn't use credit cards or nothing back then, so I borrowed Mom's credit card to pay for her engagement ring, and I was going to pay her back. And Lisa was sort of the same way. She had borrowed Mom's credit card to, at that time, her boyfriend buy his Christmas. Poor old Dad went to use the credit card to buy Mom's Christmas, and it was overextended. They wouldn't let him use it. So, but he wiggled around that and wasn't mad at nobody and made things work and everything. But they've just been two great parents. Like I say again, you know, whatever we wanted to be in or do, whatever it was, they'd always
things might be tight, but they wiggle it around and make it happen.
Well, I think it was great that we went on all these vacations. You remember when we went to Disney World?
Yeah,
It was just a year or two after it opened up.
yeah, it had just opened up, and here again another thing that most people hadn't been to it yet. And you all made it happen for us all to go to it.
I remember it cost $75 for the hotel.
We stayed right in Disney World and rode the monorail through to all the activities, and it was a pretty fantastic time for me as well as the kids. I think I really had my childhood with my kids because I never had the opportunity to do things when I was little. So that was one great time. We used to go out to Uncle Bill's. You remember going out there?
Oh yeah,
You remember learning how to ski when you went out there?
yeah. Yeah, we went on a lake out there, and that's where I skied the first time at.
And all our times on the river.
A lot of good times on the river. Skiing, Dad wanted to be sitting on a sandbar having beers with his friends, but instead he was having to be out there pulling us on skis. And he hung right in there with Dad. He didn't mind a bit.
Got a picture that we have here of all three of us kids and Dad on one slalom skiing
Yeah,
behind one boat at the same time. Excuse me.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm number 2 son. Bobby was number 1. Then my mom had some twins, a boy and a girl, and unfortunately they didn't make it. And then I was born on July 4th, and my sister was born on a year later, and
July 1, honey.
July 1st was mine, and yours was
July 28th.
July 28th, and my mom always said that God gave her twins back because we looked a lot alike when we were growing up. We were both very skinny. They called Lisa Bean, and all through high school and stuff. Things I remember about my childhood was, yes, Mom always made sure we had a real nice vacation every year. And yes, it was very hard on Father because it was costly. And right up to the minute he had to, when he got home, he went to work. We were a very good provider. We lived in a wonderful neighborhood. It was all kids of our age growing up, so we just had tons of friends. And you didn't worry about your kids back then. Your parents told you how to handle yourself and everything, or ours did, and so did others around us. We were very, very lucky. We would be playing ball or whatever, and you'd hear somebody's mom holler their name, and then you'd hear your name called. So, well, I gotta go. It's time to go eat, you know. Dinner's on the table. And we did have a lot of, not a lot, but we had sometimes we'd have tomato soup, like Father said, and dumplings. And it was tomato soup, not with the upper class made with milk. It was a tomato soup made with water. And and things got tight sometimes. I can remember Mom was tightening up the groceries and everything. And Father come home after work, and he was always very thoughtful of Mother working with her 3 kids. And he would get up, and I've learned from my father that you help out. Even after he worked and driven all the way to work and everything, he'd do the dishes when he came home. And I thought it was very thoughtful, and it helped me become a better man. Although I had some bumps in my childhood and in my grown ages, my family was always there to pick me up when I fell. The other thing that picked me up when I fell was my stepdaughter Carol and my step-grandkids, Olivia and Victoria, my son-in-law Pat. They've helped a lot too. Things that I've learned, like little this and that. I can remember my father told me one time, because I grew up and I was born in the 1960s, and the blacks and the white thing was kind of in our little town, like in the theater, the blacks had to go up in the balcony, and the whites went down on the main floor. And I'd asked my dad about it and stuff, and he told me the most terrible thing he ever seen in his life was when he was in the Navy or Air Force in Louisiana, and he said that he would walk down the sidewalk in his uniform, and he was just a punk kid. And he said a grown man, adult black man, would literally get off the sidewalk and walk into the gutter, the street, and let him pass. And my father told me that that was the worst thing he's ever witnessed in his life. And like I said, it helped me become a better man, because there was a time whenever I was going into a better man, because there was a time when I was going into our theater, and Sammy Lewis, we were talking and cutting up and everything, and we went to the theater together, and he's black, and I'm white, and he goes, all right, well, I'll see you after the show. He was going up to the balcony. And I said, no, you come in and sit with me, nothing's going to happen to you. Of course, I was 50 pounds soaking wet. I was just a punk kid, little, bony little kid. He goes, no, I'm going up there. And I said, well, I'll go up with you. And I went up there. When I walked up there, Gary Powell, he was an older black kid, put his foot out on the thing and blocked me from going in. And he said, our people sit up here, your people sit down there. And I said, come on, Sammy. He goes, no, I'll see you after the show. And I made Sammy come down with, I didn't make him, but I pleaded with him to come down with me. And he did. And he went in first and he put his back against the wall. And I don't think he watched 1 minute of that movie. The whole time he was looking like this, thinking he was going to get beat up. And it's, my dad taught me to be a better man, is what my point of all this is. Other things I can remember is we had a little shed behind our house, and little bench and all the cans of paint and stuff was in it. But one morning, one day, I don't know if it was morning or afternoon, but I decided I'd take rocks and break out the windows, the only window that was in the shed. So I broke them all out. And Mom yelled at me and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm breaking these windows. And she said, well, you wait till your father gets home, you're going to get it. And I cried and I paced and I cried and I paced, and Dad come home and Mom told him, and he said, come on, son. And we went out and looked at the broken glass. And he goes, why did you do this? And I said, I've never seen glass break before. I seen it on TV and I was wondering how it was in real life. And he says, well, now that you've seen it, promise me you'll never do it again. And I've never broke to this day another glass pane in my life. And I didn't get never have got a beating, well, though I deserved many. I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up in a wonderful neighborhood. Mom did a lot. All the neighbors said that we were the best dressed kids. And if you look at our childhood pictures, I usually got a hat on, a suit, coat, and I'm like 3 years old. And speaking of dressing, I was looking at pictures one time, and Lisa's all dressed up, and Bobby's all dressed up in a suit, Mom and Dad's all dressed up, and I'm in a brown corduroys and a brown sweatshirt. And I said, well, how come y'all bought all them nice clothes and you didn't buy me nice clothes? And Mom goes, oh, you didn't. We were going to church that day. It was Easter Sunday. And I go, well, that's how I went to church, dressed like? And Mom said, no. You did not go to church. You didn't like church, so we just left you at home. But they let me. The point is, and it's going even to my long hair, all the kids my age had to have flat tops. And when I started growing my bangs out, even Dad's father offered me $5 to get my bangs cut. And I wouldn't take it. And Dad told me he didn't care how long I grew my hair, but not to put it in a ponytail, or you cut it off right where the ponytail is. And I never put my hair in a ponytail unless I was driving my Harley to keep it from getting all knotted up. And whenever I see my dad coming, I took it out of the ponytail. And I just wish to God that everybody had the bringing up and the lessons taught and everything that our family, or at least that I had. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day, and we got away with a lot. I can remember we bought a black Impala, brand new. I think it was like a 68 or 6. What year was that Impala?
Golly, I don't remember.
68 or 69. 66. It was 66. So I was 66. I was 6 years old, and I think me and Bobby got the thing of we were supposed to wax it that day because Dad was working all the time. So we piled the wax all on in the sun, put a bunch of wax on, and then the neighborhood kids come by and said we're playing ball, and we go, all right, we'll wipe this wax off when we get back. So we went and played ball all afternoon. Of course, we came back and the wax wouldn't come off. We didn't have a buffer. I don't think a buffer would take it off. And that wax stayed on that car for over a year, I know. Just had to gradually come off. And why Dad didn't beat our rear ends for that, I will never know. But it was black Impala too, so I didn't make it any better because the wax was white. But we've been blessed. We weren't the richest family, but we were by no means the poorest family. But I think we were the richest family in love, and just in family business. One more thing, I meant to say it earlier, and if I did, I apologize. I got brain damage from my motorcycle wreck, which Bobby said I've always had brain damage. But anyway, I was talking earlier about Dad coming home and working hard, and it stopped me if I've already went into this. But I remember the story was going when Dad would do the dishes and what have you. And after he did the dishes, he opened the, Mom had told him she'd been cutting the budget and everything, the groceries and everything. And, we had this watered down soup and dumplings. And he opened up the refrigerator, and there was a white can in there that just said in black letters, beer. And he just shut that door and goes, oh, come on! This has got to stop. This is too much. But I don't know where Mom found that beer. But it was just a white can, and it literally just said beer. It didn't have calories on it. It didn't have nothing on it. It just said beer. And that was Dad's treat for the night. His white can that said beer. And with that, I just would like to say I love my family very much. Well, like I said, I had bumps in the roads. My parents, especially my mother, helped keep my stepdaughter, Carol, with me and everything. So with that, I'm going to be kind and tell you I love you very much.
Love you too.
I love my father very much, who I put to bed every night and kiss him goodnight. All right.
Good night.
Hi, I'm the baby and the girl. My name's Melissa Maria Green Morrissey. And my daughter gets on to me because she doesn't like the way I talk. So I apologize for that. I had a wonderful, wonderful childhood. And that's because of my parents. They were always giving to us. Terry was talking about, our dinners. My dad had come home from work. Mom had dinner on the table, and she always greeted him with a kiss and a glass of iced tea before he sat down. And we just always had family dinners, which unfortunately a lot of people don't do these days. I cherish our vacations. I love going camping. We had so much fun, whether it was just us or if we had other people go with us. We always had such a good time. And then when I had kids, my parents had a condo in Marco Island, Florida, and that was my kids' tradition, was we'd always go to Marco Island to visit Grandma and Grandpa in Florida. I remember I was a cheerleader in high school and junior high. My parents, even though I was a cheerleader, they didn't miss many games. They would come and watch me cheer. They supported me through the good times and the bad times. I had some bumps along the way as well. But my parents were always there for me with their love and support. They have made me who I am today because of all that love and all that support. I just have so many memories. We used to go out on the sandbar, and my mom loves to feed people. One, because she just loves to do that. Two, there was a lot of drinking went on the sandbar, and she wanted to make sure everybody had food so they wouldn't get so drunk. And my ex-husband now, who is one of my best friends, he'd always say, "Oh my God, we gotta go to the river. Your mom takes everything but the kitchen sink." And boy, did she. We'd haul, Dad would have a John boat plus our runabout, and we'd have that John boat loaded with barbecue pit and coolers and food, and he'd have to take the John boat out just to get the supplies out. And then we'd all go out in the runabout, the Mark Twain. And Bobby was right. We loved to ski, and we'd go up, "Daddy, will you take us skiing?" "Oh, let me finish my beer and then we'll go." So he was always right there, hauling us as far as we'd want to go. He'd pull us, and he'd do it as many times a day as we asked him. And Mom was always helping us with our homework, 'cause those late nights at the basketball games cheering, so she'd stay up late with me and help me study, ask me questions before tests. But we were in a good neighborhood. That was the spot to live, was David Street. But they say, there's always one house where kids hang out, and that was our house. All the kids felt welcome there. Mom was always cooking for us, whatever we wanted. One time I think she fried 20 pounds of French fries just for us kids and our friends. But I just have so many wonderful memories, and I can't thank my parents enough. They're the best parents anybody could ever ask for, and they're the best grandparents anybody could ask for. And I love them with all my heart and soul. I love you too.
Well, you remember you weren't only a cheerleader. When you were 3 years old, you were the mascot. You had a little Indian outfit, and Aunt Carol was the sponsor of the cheerleaders back then. And you and Jenny Talbert were picked as mascots. And if I couldn't go to the games, Aunt Carol would take you to the games. And so you went to a lot of basketball games when you were in the 3rd grade. And One of my memories of all three of the kids was when we were out at Marty's brother's, and his brother and sister-in-law, Pat, we went on a bus to the World's Fair in New York City. And that was really quite an experience, and we got to see things I never even dreamed of seeing, and go places and tour New York. And we were gone for 3 or 4 days, and we'd left the kids with his
With my
Grandma and
Grandpa Green.
Grandma and Grandpa Green, but we thought she needed a little help, so there was a sitter that would come in the daytime. But when we got back from the World's Fair, we were exhausted, and Grandma and Grandpa met us at the door. The kids are all sick. I don't know what to do. They got into my X-Lax thinking it was a candy bar. And Bill got on the phone and called the doctor to see what they could do. And him and Dad had to go drive back into the city to get them a drugstore where we could find something to give them, because they were so sick with all the X-Lax. They thought it was a Hershey candy bar.
No, the boys I don't think were sick. I think it was me and my cousin Peggy, and the boys gave us the X-Lax and told us it was a candy bar.
Well, okay.
Is that right?
I do not remember everything just exactly, so I'll let you have the benefit of the doubt.
My brothers like to pull little jokes on me all the time. When we go up to my Grandma and Grandpa Green's, which I love so dearly, we go to this little park in town, and they get these locusts, and I could not stand them. So they come and throw them on me, stick them on me, and I do have a lot of fond memories of my grandmas and grandpa. I'd always go spend a week in the summer with them, and me and Grandma Green would love to watch Elvis movies, and Grandpa Green, he'd always tell when I was getting a little homesick, and we had phones then, and he'd say, I think we better call your mom and dad. I better call and check on them, just so I could say hi and hear their voice. And then he'd top it off with I didn't like root beer, so I'd have a Pepsi float me and my grandpa would always make. And then when I'd be up there for the week, they'd drive me up to Kirksville to visit with my Grandma Gladys. And so yeah, I was so blessed that I got to know my grandparents the way that I did. And you got any other good memories of me? Like the time my brother Terry did something to me. My dad's at work. My mom's on the phone. And she hears a crash and a screaming kid. He had got a mirror out of a suitcase and busted it over my head. He thought that'd be fun. I don't know. What did I do?
I don't remember what you did, but you weren't very old. Neither. It was just a year and a month between you, so you were always at each other's. So, time for another question.
I love you all very much.
Okay. 50 years of blissful, fulfilling married life. On May 29th, 1955, Marty and Muriel became man and wife. That joyful day seems so long ago, but through the years their love continues to grow. So young in years, so much to learn, sometimes obstacles around each turn. Together they shared the joy and the pain, bringing in the sun to chase away the rain. They've supported their children in every way, being there for them day after day. Grandkids came, and again they were there to spend time with them and the love they shared. They have traveled the world near and far, going by ship, plane, and car. The friends they've made cannot compare. These lifelong friendships are very rare. Their life together has been as a team, such a partnership of which we could only dream. The vows they gave were so very true when they took each other's hearts and said, I do.
Another thing about my father before we start off is when you get into his work at McDonnell Douglas, nowadays nobody spends their whole career with one company. And my dad started off, I think, a couple bucks an hour there, and turned into a designer. And then he's the only director ever for McDonnell Douglas who didn't have a college degree. That's how, and he's got awards.
He took pictures.
Okay, he's got awards and stuff for it. My father's a very knowledgeable person. I used to be in the UFOs big time. And one time I was like, a UFO crash landed out in California. And my dad started laughing. And I go, what do you mean? What's going on? He goes, I can't tell you. And it was the stealth, McDonnell Douglas stealth fighter against Skunk Works down in Texas. And Vice President Cheney, which he wasn't a vice president then, got to work for Texas. But in a book I bought my dad, theirs was cheaper price, longer distance, carried more payload. It was more stealthy. And when they flew them out there in California, Skunk Works crashed. Whenever they were just deciding on which one to buy, to give the contract to, Skunk Works crashed, and McDonnell Douglas went perfectly. But Skunk Works got it because of people like Cheney and knucklehead Republicans like that.
No politics, please.
We're all Republican, and I used to be
politics.
Republican.
Okay. Jenna, you can ask Grandpa about
Politics and such, please.
Fuck me.
Let's get heated.
Alright. Grandpa, can you tell us about the time you spent in the Air Force?
I sure could. Spent 4 years doing a lot of different things in the Air Force, but mainly I was in a bomber outfit, and we had a lot of different assignments, training missions and stuff. I wasn't I wasn't part of the flight crew. We just had 3 guys on an airplane that was the flight crew. I had a navigator and a pilot and co-pilot. But I was crew chief part of that time, and I'd get to fly with them, but they just had a little step inside the cockpit that I could sit on. The step's all they gave us. So and as others already talked about, we did a lot of going places. We got married, and she didn't see much of me for quite some time after that, because we, like she said, we was in England for a while. We was in Arizona. We was in Kentucky. And that was while she was waiting to come to Louisiana to live with me. And finally it happened. She made it to Barksdale Air Force Base. So we got everything taken care of that we could take care of with limited amount of money. We did splurge and buy an old time washing machine. And I can't remember what we paid for it.
$10.
$10 we paid for
It
it.
was a Ringer washer.
And we was happy to have it. But we were close enough that when we was at our base and could get a pass for the weekend, we could come home and spend the weekend or one day at home and drive back that 700 mile or whatever it was. But we enjoyed our time at home as much as we could. I was lucky and got a lot of promotions. My commanding officer tried to get me to re-enlist, and I told him I wasn't doing that, no way, no one a doubt. And he relayed to me how tough it was going to be in the outside world. And I had heard that McDonnell Douglas in St. Louis was hiring people for work on airplanes. So I went down, checked in with them, and got a job. Now remember, I had been in the Air Force and didn't hardly have any money. And I got hired. They was hiring most people for $1.50. And I got hired for $2.18 an hour. And went home and told Mother, we're in the big chips now. $2.18.
So how long did you work at McDonnell Douglas?
I think it was almost 40 years. It was a couple of years short, maybe of 40 years. Because after I retired, I worked under contract for them. They wanted me to. We was in the process of closing the plant in Tulsa. So when so I agreed that I'd work under contract for them. And then we got that taken care of, that plant in Tulsa. And then they called me in and said, we're going to close the Titusville missile plant. And they asked if I'd go down there. Well, when we was, I had about 30 guys that was with me down at Tulsa. And when we left at Tulsa, I had probably 12, 15 guys that went down there with me right off the bat. And I had told the guys, because in Tulsa we was at a room at, you remember what that?
Ramada Residence Inn.
Residence Inn. And they're nice, but they're nothing out of the ordinary. So I told the guys, I'll guarantee you we're gonna get you some good places when we go to Florida. So I went down before any of them did and checked all the hotels, and the company had already rented a bunch of rooms in the Hilton, right on the beach. And I went and looked at them, and they were just hotel rooms. So right up the road, right up the beach, was
Condos.
yeah, private condos. And so I called the company and told them they could cancel their Hilton. I had, I don't know, 15 or 16 places rented from private individuals. That was really, really swanky places, and right on the beach. So the guys were very happy when they all got down there and saw where they was going to be. And all the guys' wives was pretty happy too, because they was going to get to come down and stay with them. So I don't remember how long we was there, but we was there quite a while and living good on the beach.
Yeah.
And watching the space shuttle, didn't you?
Oh yeah, the space shuttle come in right over our place. Mother was there, I think.
You got us a pass to go out on the where they shoot them off into space. So we went out and saw the space shuttle take off, and then we were able to see it land right over us. It was just unbelievable to watch it on television coming in, and then to look up and see it coming in. It was quite an experience. They'd always shoot off a lot of different things there that we could see, and we really enjoyed watching them. But the special thing was being right out on the line and watching it close up. You want to say anything more about when you were in the service and any of your experiences?
What was your title when you retired from the Air Force?
Director.
No, that was McDonnell Douglas. You were staff sergeant.
When I what?
Retired from the Air Force. You were.
Oh, staff sergeant.
Yeah.
What were you when you retired from McDonnell Douglas?
Director.
Of manufacturing and engineer?
Mm-hmm.
Grandma, I hear you had quite a few odd jobs as well, is that correct?
Well, I never did have a steady job where I got any retirement, but when we were married, I didn't really try to work. I was just raising the family, but there was a factory there that needed screws sorted. They would bring me screws that had been taken out of alternators, and I would sort them and sack them up, and then so you want to talk about?
No, started your. You were talking about being the lady in the cafeteria. You got your seed job.
That was after the cafeteria.
No, it's all good.
When Lisa graduated from high school, and I quit being in the cafeteria. I decided I would just kind of stay at home because Marty was going on a lot of trips, and it was bad that I couldn't go with him when he had these trips out to California. So I quit the cafeteria, and I'd fly out to California, be with him 2 or 3 weeks, and then fly home. And then my girlfriend had a son that needed a project picking up seeds is what we did. We'd go out and crawl on our hands and knees and pick up different seeds, and then we'd get this funny looking thing harness over us, and we'd strip the trees to get seeds that way. So I just did kind of odd jobs like that. I never really had a job that
You had a big full-time job keeping us 3 in line.
but my main job was coordinating the family, and always wanted to take vacations. So, you want me to go into vacations, or you got?
We can hold off on that. Tell us a little bit about your grandkids and the memories you have with them.
Well, I have a lot of memories of going on trips with the grandkids and going out on the river with them. When you were just a baby, Jenna, Grandpa got you a little life jacket, and we had a blow-up boat, and we'd put you in that boat, and I'd had a string on it, and we'd go back and forth and get you to sleep, and then you'd be asleep, and we could go ahead and not have to mess with you sometimes. That was when you were a little baby. And Joey was a cute little kid and rambunctious, and we had a lot of fun going to the river and on trips. We went to Florida. One of the nicest trips was when we went to Key West. Your dad and mom rented a Cadillac and came down and saw us. We had a condominium, and we went down. We were at Key Largo, but we took a trip down to Key West and saw Truman's house down there, and went to the beach, and it was a fun trip. We've been up to Wisconsin to the Dells. We've been to many trips to Florida, and Marty, you want to chime in on the grandkids?
Just the main thing is how proud we were when that gal was born. We was very proud of our grandkids. Wished we had a lot more of them.
Well, we kind of got a few by Terry having a relationship with little Carol's mother. We met her when she was 4 years old, and she came into our life, and she's in the 30s now, and her children are in our life, Victoria and Olivia. And year before last, Terry rented a house, and we all went to out Gulf Shores, and it was just a wonderful vacation because I had my daughter, my son, my granddaughter, my kind of adopted granddaughter and her husband and 2 kids, and the house was fantastic, and we just all really enjoyed ourselves. It was a shame Joey and Bobby couldn't have been with us. I have another kind of adopted granddaughter, Renee. She is Bobby's. Her mother and dad, well, her mother died and her dad kind of left them. And so Bobby and Judy adopted her and her brother. Renee has 2 children, Christopher and Kayla, and they're the cutest kids, and they bring us a lot of joy when we get to see them. We just don't get to see them very much, but they're all just have given us a lot of joy in their adult life. Joey's been very good to want to get Grandpa to take him to a movie or come out for breakfast. And when he was younger and in school, he played baseball and he was on the American Legion team, and we enjoyed seeing all of his games. And Jenna was, you call it a pom-pom girl in school.
We can call it that.
In school, and she cheered for the hockey team. I'd never been to a hockey game, and we'd go to all the hockey games to see Miss Jenna cheer. And Grandpa had experiences with taking Joey out hunting. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I took Joey. He never got too excited about hunting, but first time I took him, he shot a deer. So we went back one more time deer hunting, and I believe he got another deer. He's got 2 deer. So he got indoctrinated real quick on deer hunting. But he never really got excited about deer hunting, I don't think. He never talked much about it if he did. But sports, he loves sports of any kind. That's about all there is to talk about on deer hunting.
Do you remember the morning you got the phone call that you were having a grandchild coming? And when you showed up at the house, I was like, Dad, where's Mom? And what'd you say?
No.
Can you remember?
No, I don't remember.
You said she had to make the bed, so I left her. I had to get down here and get you to the hospital. So here come Grandma about 15 minutes behind you.
I don't remember.
And you tell me, I'm going to run to the work for a minute. And I don't even think you'd made it to work, and you'd be back at the hospital. You and Grandma were there with both of my kids, Jenna and Joey. Jenna Lee is my daughter. She was born in 1987, February 28th. And I have Joseph Martin, who's named after his grandpa. And he was born in 1989, July 19th. And Mom and Dad were there for both of them. And Mom would stay with me and help me with the kids and with doing the laundry and cooking dinner. So they're great grandparents.
Grandma, one thing I remember most about you is your love to cook. You love to feed people. What are some of your favorite famous recipes?
Well, I don't really have recipes. I just kind of, like I'll put a roast and put some onion soup mix on it in the crock pot, and that gives me the main dish for a meal. And I'd make sauerkraut and dumplings. That was my mother's favorite thing to make. And then put some Polish sausage in there. I think you kids liked having just plain cheeseburgers, but I don't really have any fancy dishes that I make. It's all kind of just meat and potatoes kind of thing.
And your chicken and noodles.
Well, yeah, I do make chicken and noodles. Marty's mother would make egg roll noodles, roll them out, let them dry, and cut them. But I found a good noodle in the freezer department, so I do those, and the kids just love that. I always make the noodles with the turkey for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We always have that. But I used to make a lot of homemade desserts, but now they're so easy to get in the freezer department, so I give that up.
So I always remember as a child going fishing with you, Grandpa. We would go out in the John boat and run all of our limb lines.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about some times on the river and your tales of all the fish you've caught.
Oh, yeah, we've caught some big fish on limb lines. But the funniest thing was Mark Terrell and the Reed boy. They come in from running their lines, and they had a great big catfish that they'd caught. And when they dressed it, they took the head off of this big catfish and put it in my live box. And I found out it was in there. So as a joke, I was telling everybody I'd caught a little catfish, but it was really mean, and it would eat other fish, and you had to really be careful or it'd bite you. And so I put it in this live box with just this fish head, and word got out that I had this mean fish. So they all came down to see this mean fish, and just the head was in there. So everybody got a kick out of that I had fooled them with a big catfish.
I remember you used to keep a gun at your sink cleaning station in case a snake came.
Yeah. I don't like snakes. I hate snakes. So, yeah, we used to shoot a lot of snakes down on the river after a flood, because the snakes would be there then, and I'd shoot them.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time up at the river. Grandma, isn't that where you earned your nickname, Sarge?
I think so. I'd boss everybody around and tell them they'd have to eat something or they couldn't have another beer. I'd say, you either eat this hamburger or I'm cutting your beer off from you. But, yeah, we built a clubhouse down on the river, and it was kind of going to be just for the weekends and that. But then we got to loving it so much, we decided we'd sell our house in town and just live on the river. And then the flood came, and we had to get out of our house. And so Lisa had the basement that we had put a bedroom in, so we'd have to come down here and stay in the basement while our house was being flooded. And finally it got to the point where we had to, it tore all the furniture in it. We lost all the furniture and drywall, and we had to redo our cabinets and everything. And then we had to build it up higher. So we had to go through all that and redo the clubhouse. But it was very nice to live on the river, to see the animals, and the kids would always want to come and visit down there. We had a fishing boat and a runabout boat, and I didn't know how to run either one of them, and I didn't know how to swim. So eventually Dad said, we gotta get us a house that's not on the river. So we decided we'd come down here in O'Fallon and try to buy a house down here, because Lisa was divorced and Jenna and Joey were in a lot of activities, and we wanted to help her out. So we moved to O'Fallon. We had a little log house that really looked out of place amongst all the other houses, but we lived there for 12 years. And then things got to where we decided we'd all live together. And so we came out here and moved into Lisa's house because it was big enough to accommodate all of us. And it's, with a lot of give and take, why it's sort of worked out.
Best decision we ever made.
Because Terry's been disabled since his motorcycle accident. He has memory loss and no use of his right arm. So he needs somebody. And Lisa has a lot of problems with her anxiety and depression, and she needs somebody, and we are getting old and disabled, and we need somebody. So it worked out. We all needed somebody, and we're there to help one another.
Why don't you tell us about some of your favorite travel spots and your second home in Marco?
Oh gosh, we've had so many travel spots, because like when the kids were young, we'd always take off. We had a station wagon and an old feather tick mattress, and we'd put that old feather tick mattress in the back of the station wagon so the kids could sleep while we drove. And it was easier to drive of a night so they wouldn't be getting after each other. We went to Florida numerous times with the kids, and we went on a cruise. And when we come off the cruise, we went to see our friends Ronnie and Joanne Hartley, and we were walking through Tin City, and there was a sign there, get a free fishing trip. So you had to listen to a talk about timeshare to get the fishing trip. And we listened to it, and we liked what we saw, so we bought a week of timeshare 1 week, and it's turned into a lifetime of happiness down there. We had ended up with 12 weeks at Marco Island. Jenna's only missed 2 times coming to Marco Island in all the years we went to Marco Island. And because we had the timeshare, we were able to go other places. We went to Hawaii and saw a lot of interesting things there. We went to Maine, and we went to on a lot of cruises. We've been to Alaska. I went to England with Dad on one of his trips, and that was very educational to see all the beautiful monuments that they have over there. And Dad, you want to talk about what you think of our vacations?
Oh, I enjoyed them all. We had some dandies. We had some in Carolinas. I can't remember what else we had, but they were all fun. And I guess partly because I was with a good crew that we had nice vacations. And Mrs. Green had it well organized and planned.
Do you remember when we went to camping with your brother Bill and Pat and all the kids?
Yeah, that was in Carolinas.
And there was a big whale that got beached on there, and the kids were so excited to go down and see the whale and how they managed to get it back in the water. We took the kids one time to Washington, D.C., and Bobby was just a little tyke, and we ate lunch at the Capitol and with Clarence Cannon, and then his wife Ida took us for a tour of the White House and the Capitol, and we sat in the same seats where the president's wives and dignitaries sit, and watched the Congress in session, and that was a real nice vacation. And then on our 60th wedding anniversary, we rented a house in Michigan, and the whole family were there at one time or another. They couldn't all be there for the whole week, but we had a beautiful house, and we went up and saw the sand dunes and had a good week together. Another vacation we took was up to Mackinac Island, and saw where Esther Williams had her famous swim. Sat on the porch there overlooking the swimming pool. We felt like we were really hot dogs. And we were with friends of ours that we had made in Marco Island, that he was a former FBI agent, and he has so many stories to tell us.
Secret Service.
Yeah. And he took Marty out fishing for salmon. They had a boat, and they're right on the Canadian border, so you had to have a Canadian license as well as a United States license to fish. But that was a wonderful vacation. Another wonderful vacation was when the kids went with us to the Dells, and you went to the old Rock House, and we saw the ski show, and you kids were very content to just be with us.
Grandma, I always thought that you should coach the St. Louis Cardinals. Do you think that they'd be in better shape right now if you were coaching?
Well, I've sort of gotten off the Cardinals a little bit since I'm not able to go to the games, but when I was younger, we went to Milwaukee to see the Cardinals, and we went to Chicago to see the Cardinals. We went to Kansas City. There was a big group of us that would go to see the Cardinals. I always give Matheny, and I used to give Tony advice just in my mind, but one day they were having a book thing with Tony LaRussa, and you had to stand in line to get his autograph. And when I handed him the book to autograph, I was telling him, I think you should have done something else when I was getting his autograph, and he told me why he didn't. But I haven't had the chance since Matheny's been the manager to really talk to him. But I did meet with him when we went to the Cardinals' first day, and he was signing autographs.
Who are some of your favorite players?
Oh, Ozzy's the favorite. I loved Ozzy. And we were at the game when Lou Brock beat the record on stolen bases. And I had to get Lisa a t-shirt because it came out just like that, on the back of it, that he had broken the record. And we all went to the ball game one time, and the kids all got bats, and they were signed, just falsely. But Bobby happened to have Lou Brock's bat, and Terry and Lisa had somebody that's not well known now. I can't even remember who it was, but Bobby, just the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, a guy he works with's brother is good friends with Lou Brock, and he took the bat with him and got Lou Brock to sign it and got a picture of it. That's kind of a special thing with it. But I love going to the games. We'd always go and early and stay late. We never left a ball game before it was over, except one time. It was just necessity.
One thing I want to just chime in here with is give you a feeling of the way my parents, my family are. A friend of ours, Leslie and Bubba. Bubba just got killed. He got hit by a train last year, and Leslie was out with a push mower trying to mow their 3-acre lot, and Dad told me I need to get down there. He said he was going down there to mow that lot. Their home. I said, no, Dad, you can't get out there. Well, that's where I just came from. I went down there and I mowed the yard. I mowed half of it yesterday, and I mowed half of it today. But that's just the way I was brought up, is to help provide for people in need. And I've learned that through my parents. And I've learned it well. Now I'll bow out, and I just want to give you a little bit of this history of our parents and what everyday life is around here.
Grandpa, you always loved to hunt. Tell us about some of your fun times up at Seven Suckers Ranch.
Oh, Richard Green and I would go up there. And Richard Green's a fun guy to be around. And we'd have a lot of laughs out of stuff we'd do and screw up, or field dressing, deer. Then we didn't take them to a processing place. Richard knew how to cut them up himself, so he would cut up our deer. But we had a lot of fun. Him and I would just go up there and stay all night sometimes. We'd go up and have deer cut up, and we'd have deer for supper.
You want to tell them about your turkey hunt?
Oh, that was a pretty good thing. Richard and I had never turkey hunted, and we decided we was going to go turkey hunting. And you know, these guys that really get into turkey hunting, they dress with all kinds of camouflage stuff and put stuff all over their face so it doesn't show up. And the guys was asking me and Richard what we was going to wear. Yeah, we'd probably just wear what we got on. And where are you going to hunt? We're going to go get in a deer stand, sit in a deer stand. And one of the guys told Bobby, said, we didn't want to bust your dad's bubble, but he ain't gonna kill no turkey sitting in a deer stand. And Bobby said, well, they're big boys, they'll have to figure it out themselves. And we got in the deer stand at 6:30 that morning. The sun's coming up, and there's a turkey right out in front of me. So I shoot the turkey, and then we're laughing and having fun and talking about it. The turkey weighs 80 pounds. It's a huge turkey. Of course, it wasn't that big. But then we kept sitting there, and at 7 o'clock, Richard shot his turkey. So we were the champion turkey hunters out of a deer stand. Well, now all these guys are killing turkeys, but they go get in a stand and get their turkeys out with the stand. So we're known now as the guys that hunt out of a deer stand for turkeys. But it works for us.
Well, that's all that matters, right?
Right.
Do you guys have any advice for future generations?
Not in this situation the world is in today. You don't know what's going to happen from day to day anymore. So I don't know of anything other than just be true to yourself and do what you can do to help the world situation.
I'd just say to the younger generation, don't wait until you're kind of old and feeble to do the things you really want to do. If you're able to afford them and your health is so that you can do them, get out and do them. See the world. Go places. Don't be afraid that you're not going to have enough to make it. Just do the things that really make you happy. Be kind to one another, and always try to treat everybody as you would like to be treated yourself. I think that's something that can go from one generation to another.
Do you guys have any final words for your loved ones to always remember you by?
For what?
For your loved ones.
I could talk the rest of the day on her. I can't remember nothing, but that poem right there says a lot about Muriel. She is so well organized, so loving. She's just, it didn't take me very long to figure out that I sure picked the right one. And I don't know where I'd ever find another one like her. But she's put up with me all these years, and we've had a beautiful life all these years. But we've had our ups and downs too. But for the most part, everything has worked out pretty good. And we're very happy with my spouse. And I love her very much.
Dad, do you want to say something about your cane?
About what?
Your cane?
Oh. Well, that's just the key. This is just a family cane that had a lot of stories about it, but I ended up with it. Nobody knows for sure where this thing went, but it's I think they call the wood black ebony or something like that. But everybody thought this was a gold handle on it. Well, it wasn't gold. Nobody seems to know what kind of material it is. But anyway, I ended up with it. It's got my initials on it, M-A-G. That was my great-great-grandpa. Martin Austin Galden was his name. And so I got it because I got the same initials.
Do you have any final words for the rest of your family?
Well, I just would like to say that I have a wonderful family, that we couldn't ask for any better grandchildren. Jenna's always been there whenever we've needed her, and she always knows the right thing to say and do when there's any problem between any of us. And Joey's been great. We love Carol and Pat a lot, and Olivia and Victoria. We used to go to their games when we were able to. And Renee and David, they don't come around very much, but we go to the kids' birthday parties and their activities at school when we can, and we love them dearly. They're a great little family. They've made their own business. They put sidings on houses and roofs, and Renee works right alongside her husband, and they've got just a wonderful little family. And I know that Jenna's going to have a nice family. She's got a good boyfriend, and they're building their house, and I can't wait until I can get in it. And Carol and Pat have just moved back. They were in Omaha, and I just want the kids to remember us as somebody that loved them very much and will love their children to come, and hopefully soon.
Anything else? You done?
I just want to say that I have a wonderful sister, Cookie, that has helped me, and her husband, Billy, helps Marty. And I couldn't ask for anybody any better to be a friend and a sister. And I had a dear sister, Carol, and this necklace is made of one of her rings, and it's very precious to me. Her daughter gave it to me, and I think we've had a great life, 63 years,